Waiting is one of the hardest things we are asked to do. Not because it requires effort, but because it offers so little reassurance. When we wait, there are no clear answers, no timelines, no signs telling us how long the silence will last. For many people, waiting feels like being paused while the rest of life keeps moving forward. Days pass, weeks stretch on, and the quiet can begin to feel heavy. Yet, throughout the pages of the Bible, waiting appears again and again. Not as a mistake, not as a delay, but as part of the story itself. This is a reflection on one of those moments, a story shaped not by action or triumph, but by stillness, a season where nothing seemed to happen, and yet everything was quietly being prepared. There was a young man whose life began far from the spotlight. He spent his days outdoors caring for sheep, watching seasons change, and learning patience the slow way, long before anyone spoke his name with respect. Long before songs were written about him, he lived an ordinary life marked by repetition and quiet responsibility. He believed that his life held meaning beyond what he could see, not because circumstances suggested it, but because a quiet sense of purpose followed him. And then, unexpectedly, his future seemed to open. People took notice. Words were spoken over his life. Possibility suddenly felt close, but what followed was not progress. It was waiting. Years passed without explanation. The promise did not disappear, but neither did it arrive. Instead of movement, there was delay. Instead of clarity, there was silence. The shepherd would later be known as David. But in that long season, he was simply a man waiting while others advanced, waiting while days repeated themselves, waiting while the future remained unclear. What no one could see at the time was that the waiting itself was shaping him. The quiet days were forming patience. The long silence was deepening trust. The ordinary routines were grounding him for what would come later. Nothing seemed to be happening, yet everything was quietly being prepared. Waiting has a way of revealing what we rely on. When answers come quickly, trust feels easy. When progress is visible, faith feels natural. But when time stretches on without explanation, something deeper is tested. For David, the silence could have been interpreted as rejection. The delay could have felt like failure. Yet the story suggests something else. The waiting was not punishment, it was preparation. In stillness, urgency softened. In routine, humility grew. In silence, trust learned to stand without reassurance. Waiting was not a pause in the story. It was part of how the story unfolded. Many people today recognize this kind of waiting. Waiting for clarity that does not come. Waiting for progress that feels slow. Waiting while life seems to move forward for everyone else. It may look like unanswered messages, delayed plans, or seasons where effort does not seem to lead anywhere. It may feel like being faithful in small ways that no one notices. This story reminds us that waiting is not unique to one person or one time. It is woven into human experience across generations. For many, waiting becomes a place where faith is quietly reshaped, not through dramatic change, but through endurance, not through answers, but through persistence. Sometimes the most meaningful growth happens when nothing appears to be happening at all. The power of waiting is easy to overlook. It rarely feels purposeful in the moment. It rarely comes with reassurance. Yet this story invites a different way of seeing silence. Waiting does not mean absence. Stillness does not mean stagnation. If you find yourself in a season where progress feels slow or direction feels unclear, this reflection offers gentle reassurance. The waiting may be doing more than you can see. The quiet may be shaping something deeper than you expect. And in time, the story continues,